So for those who just joined, I'm going in on how African Americans or Black people in the diaspora, this is all the Americas. Even if you're in South America, Central America, the Caribbean, to Malcolm X, we believe you're African American. Go research Malcolm X. You're an African American even if you're in the Caribbean, South America, because that's all the Americas, and you are African. So when I say African American, in that context, I meant everybody. I'm sharing my experience for how we can conduct Sankofa, like I just mentioned, and reach back and gain our culture. All right, so back to story time. When I was in college, right, as I was getting this consciousness, this Black consciousness, I wanted to know more about myself and what that meant for me. So the first step I took was researching my own culture. And my culture, or I should say my heritage, on my mother's side is Jamaican. My mom comes from Jamaica. And on my dad's side is African American. His lineage, his family, my family, comes from namely Georgia and Alabama in the low country of the United States. So the first step I did was research slavery. You know what I'm saying? I watched a lot of slavery movies that I probably should have saw before that point, but you know what I'm saying? I watched them, and I know it's cliche to watch slavery movies. Now I hear Black people say, I don't watch slavery movies, like they're too good to watch slavery movies. I don't agree with that. I watch them just so I can get an emotional picture, an idea of what it might have felt to be my ancestors in that time. You know, because these things, these traumatic experiences are things that they went through and lived through. And I'm living proof that they survived these things. So I think the first step for me to honor them and to learn about them was to learn about what they went through when they were brought over here. And the way I did it was, I started where I was at. I didn't start in Africa because I didn't know where in Africa I came from. In order to find out where in Africa you come from, you must start where you are. So if you are in Jamaica, if you're a Jamaican, a lot of my family is probably going to watch this, you have to look up Jamaican history, specifically the colonial Jamaican history, right? When Britain had control, of Jamaica, and they kind of still do, but you know what I'm talking about. And even when the Spaniards were in Jamaica, a lot of people don't know Jamaica was colonized by the Spanish first. Through learning my Jamaican history and heritage, I learned these things. I learned a lot about the history of the world, because many don't know that the slave trade was a worldwide affair. We weren't just, randomly brought here. There was reasons, and there was various institutions that even promoted, the enslavement of our ancestors. But that's something for another live. So yeah, research your history, specifically research the history of slavery in your respective country. And when you're doing this research, Wikipedia is fine. Honestly, I'm gonna say it right now. I have a bachelor's in science, and if you know how to use Wikipedia, then it could be a great resource. I had a lot of professors that hated Wikipedia. Did I still use it in A-State course? Yes, I did, because I knew how to. In Wikipedia, let's say you type in history of slavery, of the transatlantic slave trade. On that page, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's going to be a tab that says resources, or references rather. You want to open up that tab, and then you want to go look at all the numbers. They should be in brackets, right? They're going to be highlighted in blue. And that long strip of words and information, that is what you want to click on. All of those. When you read a Wikipedia article, it's cited, meaning that it's citing another source of information to build this webpage. So for a lot who don't have academic background, that's one way you can use Wikipedia and easily access information, right? So that's what I did a lot. And then through those resources, I got more insight, a general insight rather. And then when I got that general insight, I was able to pinpoint and go to different websites, like census websites, for example, historical websites that are specifically tailored to the type of information that I was looking for, right? But I wouldn't have known what information to look for if I didn't do what? If I didn't research my history. Research your history. when I say research your history, even if it was 20 years ago and it happened in a community that you grew up in or that your family comes from, know what happened there. Know your family's possible interaction with that piece of history. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the type of places you want to start at. You don't want to start by looking up who Mansa Musa was and wonder, am I a descendant, all this stuff. That don't get too broad. Start narrow at the source or at where you are for the source, and then get broad, and then eventually it's gonna concave like an oval, and then you're gonna get to that pinnacle point, which is the real source, and that's your root. But we're at the leaf level right now. We're at the fibers on the leaf. That's where we are. That's how far removed from a lot of our African culture we are. So enough with the metaphors. That's just a background on how I got started with learning my history.